Welcome to another edition. This is the first edition, Campbell. Why did you put that?
This to mess with you.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the first edition of Sunday Soup, where a former student talks with his English teacher about anime. My name is Cannon. I'm kind of a new ground anime geek. Only been into the genre for about a couple of years, and then this is Campbell.
Hey, what's up? I'm the soup, I guess.
He's the soup. Yeah.
I'm the soup man.
Um, so today, we commemorating our first episode. We kind of just wanted to talk about the groundwork of anime itself. And to do that, we thought it would be best to go over what we thought was the quintessential old style kind of anime, right? Something like
Mhm.
that. And we are reviewing today Gunbuster
Also
from,
known as Aim for the Top Gunbuster.
yeah. It is from 1989, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I want to say yes. I want to say it's if it's not late '80s, it's very early '90s.
Okay. Uh, so
Um, yeah, I think like 1989.
yeah.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
Okay. Cool. Cool. So I watched this very recently.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure you have it on. You have it on like DVD, right? You got it.
Yeah, yeah. That's a whole story in itself, actually. Well, it's a short story.
Well, I mean, you could go in.
Oh yeah.
We
So
have
and this
time.
We have time. So the thing about Gunbuster is that because it's really old and licensing in anime licensing is kind of a nightmare, especially with really old titles. Gunbuster is a series that is no longer in print in English. Bandai doesn't like publish their own or license their own anime. This stopped. I think that honestly that stopped around 2010, 2009, and so yeah, there's that whole thing, and like Gunbuster is extraordinarily difficult to find. It's extremely rare, and so it's extremely expensive.
Mhm.
So I was at a anime convention here in good old SA, and I was walking around, and I always try to like find like the only one really expensive thing to buy whenever I'm at a con. It's either like something I can't find or something I didn't already buy from like Ami Ami or whatever.
You're not gonna get like
And
a
there was
hot.
a
You're not gonna get like a
uh
life size Hatsune Miku or something like that. Come on.
oh, that's too much. That's too much money,
Too
dude.
much money? Oh,
Too
okay.
much money. Too much money. I don't love Hatsune Miku that much.
That is blasphemy. I'll have you know.
but yeah, but there was this one booth, and I think like in the past, like the booth that used to be here would sell like anime DVDs, or they sold like old like figures, like Dragon Ball figures that were like from the late '90s, that were like American made action figures are like really bad. But I found a box set of Gunbuster. I was floored. I was like, "This, excuse me, like this is super rare." And it was like still wrapped, and I got it. I picked it up, and it was like $200, which is really expensive, but not bad for a show that's out of print. And I remember like I put it down, I walked the floor, I thought about it, and went back and bought it because I knew that like if I didn't get it right then and there, I wouldn't have Gunbuster.
You'd never see it again.
Yeah,
Like
I
that.
would never see it again. It would never show up. This was my only opportunity, and like that was my weekend buy.
Rare mint condition anime are always like the most sought after. So
Mm,
yeah, if you would have left that day, I don't think you would have seen it again. Like,
yeah,
and I know how big the San Antonio anime conventions are, so like it would have been gone.
yeah,
So
yeah. If I hadn't gone back like 10 minutes later, like
yeah,
someone would have found it. They would have bought both copies. That were there. Um, and like also that summer that happened, I had just finished watching Gunbuster 2, which is a whole other episode probably. So I watched the sequel to Gunbuster, and I loved it. So I watched then I bought the DVDs. I went back home and I watched it, and it was a ride. And we'll get into that.
yeah. So contrasting your very beautiful, touching very expensive story about how you came to find Gunbuster. And that wasn't the first time you had seen it, was it? Or was that like the first time you had seen the original Gunbuster?
That was the first. That was the first time I got to watch the actual
Oh, okay.
6 episodes. Before that, I watched the movie because like the Blu-ray movie came out in like 2018, 2017,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, to commemorate like the anniversary of Gunbuster. So there was a movie version about that. It was like $20 on Right Stuff or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched the 90-minute version of Gunbuster. So like the 6 episodes were condensed into a 90-minute film, which is gorgeous. It's really good,
Was
and I
it?
still like the movie a lot.
It
But
was it
having
reusing?
watched this, oh
Was it
sorry,
was it reusing like the same like assets and animations and stuff like that, or?
yeah, it was cleaned up a bit, and
Oh, okay.
I think they re-recorded the lines, so it was like HD quality lines and HD quality visuals along as well as like I think they just changed the mastering.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. Like I really like the movie. I think the movie version is a legit way to watch it. But
Mm-hmm.
after watching the 6 episodes, like the 6 episode OVA version is the best way to watch Gunbuster.
Yeah. So, again, contrasting your story about how you came to watch it, I torrented it from. I mean, I guess wasn't torrented. It was posted on BitChute. You know, I watched it in 2 sessions with my boyfriend, and he, both me and him really liked it. He doesn't like subtitled animes at all, really,
Mhm.
and he still really enjoyed it. I think it was the the like classic nature of it and how it kind of molded this like architecture of like quintessential 80s, right?
Mhm.
How I felt about it, it felt very old style.
Mhm.
And that is something like that I really loved about it. Even though it came in like out in like 89, it encompassed all these like really like cliche things that I've always loved about anime, into just this one 6 part, really easily digestible and consumable, material. It was really nice. It was really good. Um, but I guess getting from that, like talking about how we um, came about watching it. How did you think about it? How did you feel about it?
Like my initial reaction
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
Gunbuster. So from the movie, like I watched the movie, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. I thought it was really good. It was really cool. Like I understood the emotional beats, and I was like, that's whatever. But when I watched the OVA, like the actual 6 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
I think it hit me a lot harder. Especially like the first part, like episode 1, when Noriko is like learning how to pilot, and she learns that like Kazumi isn't talented; she's just a hard worker,
Mm-hmm.
and so like Noriko like learns to work hard, and she puts in all this time, and she overcomes her bullies, and just watching the series, like I got to see like almost everything I grew up with when it came to anime. Like it starts off like Top Gun, you know. It's and that's one of the inspirations for the series, Top Gun. There's a Top Gun like volleyball like feel to it. Every girl is wearing like a sports uniform.
Very weirdly skimpy, kind of.
Yeah,
Is yeah,
it's like a weird bodysuit kind of thing.
kind of like bottom half is like like swimsuit, like one piece swimsuit, and then it turns into like a puffy like shirt at the top.
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
really liked that outfit though. It was a really cool style.
I really like how it's very sporty while still being very anime.
Yeah.
You know, like it's so clearly a design meant to be for anime and for like a show inspired by sports anime. It's so clearly that, but still like it's so like instantly classic.
Mm.
It's and you like even today, like when you look at anime today with their designs, like they can be simple like Gunbuster, but they're nowhere near as iconic or eye catching.
Yeah.
Like you see the Gunbuster's bodysuit thing, like gymnast bodysuit, and it's like, yeah, that's Gunbuster. That is quintessential 80s anime feeling. Like it's so clean, you know. It's rad.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that hit me the most about Gunbuster was that like, as a person who loves anime and watched anime for years, the emotional beats of Gunbuster still hit me just as hard as I probably would have if I'd watched it in '89.
Mm.
Like like I can't stress enough that like Gunbuster is kind of extremely cliche.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah, no, 100%.
It's super cliche. It's like you've seen everything in Gunbuster 1,000 times, but just because you've seen it 1,000 times doesn't mean that it's isn't like kind of phenomenal.
Yeah.
Especially like the scene, like the first Gunbuster scene when she like has to overcome her own fear and like pilots Gunbuster for 10 minutes to save the ship.
Mm.
Like that was like, this is freaking rad.
So yeah. So
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're good. So something I did want to say is that like even though we talk about like how this anime in particular created these cliches, or not created necessarily, but like reinforced these cliches to a high degree, that doesn't mean these things aren't commemorable or they didn't do it in a unique way, right? Because there was a lot of things that I noticed about the anime that were completely like almost unique to it. And they did it in such a tasteful, nice, really, really impactful way.
Yeah.
And before we continue at anything, I would like to say, spoiler warnings. I mean, I know this is like a 39-year-old anime, but if you don't want to be spoiled on this anime, please don't listen to this.
Yes, go find it, go watch it, find a way to watch it, then come back.
So
official spoilers, like I can start talking about plot.
Yeah, so do you want to go through this like episode by episode, and then we just talk about the major themes and stuff that we saw throughout them?
I think that might be a good idea, but I also think that because of the way Gunbuster kind of is, like I think talking about it as a whole is totally fine.
Yeah, no, of course. It's very short. It's a very short anime. I'm not gonna lie.
It's 6 episodes. Like it was
20
originally
minutes
released
each almost.
Yeah, it was originally released on VHS, then released on Laserdisc later, and like DVDs on in 2004, which I think my copy is the 2004 like R1 edition. It's gorgeous. I'll have to send you photos of it. It's so pretty.
You talking about the box, like the
the box, the inside of the box, even the discs are like kind of nice. Yeah. It's really nice. It comes with like a booklet with like information about Gunbuster. It's super cool.
That's awesome. And you could also watch it on BitChute. I still don't, whatever. It's cool. I consume my anime anywhere.
Yeah.
So episode 1 was kind of hit or miss for me. Like I really I didn't really enjoy like the tropes that were immediately presented to me. Like Takaya, I haven't said her name. What? Noriko Takaya, the main character. I didn't really like how at first they kind of portrayed her as like a dunce, kind of like like a damsel kind of. Like she was basically just like a dumb girl who was being bullied because she wasn't good at a thing, right? So the main tropes like that were presented there, I really didn't kind of like. I had seen them a lot before in other animes where similar topics were broached. I think the main one I can think of is like maybe Kill la Kill, maybe. I mean, because the main character of Kill la Kill is competent, but she's still, and she's not aware of like the string and stuff like that. I've seen these tropes before. I didn't really like how ditzy and dumb she was portrayed. And I didn't really like how I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really like how the Gundams were portrayed or the robots were portrayed. I brought this up with Josh. I was like, why are they like working out in the robots? Like, what does that do? They're just pressing buttons. Why are they doing push-ups or it could be like a training in how to do this, but it just looked kind of odd to me. that was something that stood out to me. Anything about you?
No, so that's totally a thing, and it's extremely silly. Like
Yeah.
that, like they do 50 laps in their mecha. They have to learn how to do it manually. Like there's all this stuff, and it's um it's really stupid looking back. Like why is that even a thing?
Mm.
Uh, and I'll defend it. Like I'm not gonna 100%. It's just like a lukewarm defense.
Mm.
Um, it's to get that sport anime feeling. Like it's clearly just for sports anime feeling.
Yeah.
Like you know the scene, like it's in the middle. It's like halfway through the first episode, where the coach takes Noriko, um, to like those stairs, or like he takes her out somewhere.
Yeah, and
He shows her
Kazumi
that
has the weights
like,
on her feet, you know?
yeah, she's running up the stairs with like metal weights on her
Mm.
feet. It's like, is that gonna help her be better at being a pilot? No, like not at all. But like that's not the point. Like the point is the feeling.
It
Like
just shows her
we need,
resolve.
yeah, we need to understand that Kazumi works really really hard, and she like trains not only does she train to learn how to use the robot, she trains her body, she trains mentally, she just trains like her essentially kind of dedicates her life into being the best pilot that she can be,
Mm.
which will come up later. Um,
Eh,
and so like the whole like they do push-ups and they're doing like workouts in their mecha, like it's all just for the sake of in service of sports anime, which at the time was really popular. Sports anime was like the anime. Like nowadays, like so this might be kind of weird to say because sports anime is kind of big right now, or at
Mm.
least bigger than it used to be in the you know early aughts. But before there was action anime, before there was Dragon Ball and One Piece and Bleach or whatever, there was sports anime. Sports anime dominated the the zeitgeist of people who loved anime. You watched like, oh man, you read Ashita no Joe, no Tomorrow's Joe. You read even Gunbuster's name, Aim for the Top, is based off of tennis anime
Mm.
that was really popular that we have never seen, that I've never seen. Like people loved sports anime, and even the idea of hardworking guts is from sports anime. And
Yeah.
so it's purely done for the feeling. It's an aesthetic choice.
Yeah. Uh,
As for like why Noriko gets like bullied and why she's, you know, kind of a ditz and kind of like sheepish and really lacking in confidence, that is a classic shoujo manga trope, especially from that time. I think even to this day, like that is a common shoujo thing. Like people who love Fruits Basket, like Toru is unusual in that she has a lot of confidence despite her, crushing depression. Um, but like Noriko being this like shoujo protagonist who loves her onesama, who she loves her older sister, she loves her senpai, who wants to be better, but she's shy and she's really unsure of herself and she has a lot of anxiety, and so she's easy to bully. And there's like these scenes between her and her best friend whose name I can never remember.
it's Takami. Yeah.
I don't remember her best friend's name, but like, they have these scenes together that just feel very teenage coming of age.
Mm.
And they're like, it's okay, like you're a dummy because you're kind of a ditz, but I love you because you're my best friend. And it's so sincere. It's like it's cute. It's like very very honest in that way.
And that's kind of something. Takami as a character, that is her name, is very like
Yeah.
pure. She wasn't mentioned a lot in the first episode, and even after Noriko like left to the space station and stuff like that, we didn't really see her until the last two episodes even. And even so, she remained like a strong character, the best friend of Noriko, and it was just it's very, their relationship, you can tell, is very deep, even though she's been gone for what, 20 years, 15 years.
Something like that, yeah.
And so going back to the first episode, Kazumi is what would you describe Kazumi as? Because she's kind of like the senpai of Noriko, but then she ends up like, okay, hey, don't bring Noriko with us to the ship. So like how do you feel about her as a character, especially in episode 1?
Episode 1 really sets up Kazumi as like this cool, aloof older sister type of character, which is once again like such a standard anime trope. It's so classic. Like Kazumi is such the the, the embodiment of like the older sister type, especially like in shoujo manga. That's why it's like what she's introduced with like flowers around her, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's that very. Can I just say also like flowers
Oh
scene?
yeah, I joked with Josh that they are like gonna get together. Like I
Yeah,
thought I thought
it's
it was a very like queer relationship that would happen. You know, this is the
the,
80s. It wouldn't have happened anyway, but it just
yeah.
felt, you know, like there was a
It
connection there.
no, you're not wrong. Like there is definite. I don't know if this is the proper way of using this term. Like it's definitely kind of queer coded to
Mm.
be that there is a deeper love between Noriko and Kazumi that she has. Like it's it's established that Noriko kind of has a crush on Kazumi. Um, like there's the flowers. Like the flowers is such it is always connected to like Yuri or not bi gay relationships. Like
Yeah.
you see to this day, like if you watch a monthly girl Nozaki-kun when they introduce what's his name, the redhead.
Jung?
I don't remember his name, but when
Oh,
to introduce him, they introduce him with flowers, and he's like really cute and everything, and he's supposed to be like he's very girly, and he tries to be like this smooth guy that people love, and this that you can love easily, but he's still he's sheepish, and because he's sheepish, he's a perfect shoujo protagonist that you
mm.
want to root for. Like that's very Noriko, that's very Kazumi,
And
but
that is,
Kazumi's
yeah.
like especially in the beginning, like Kazumi is like just this aloof, cool person that we're supposed to understand that Noriko looks up to her because Kazumi is everything Noriko wants to be. She's very cool. She has the long hair that's like flowing, so she's coded as being very pretty. Everyone loves her. She's like the queen. She's the princess of the school, and uh, until like episode 4, like Kazumi is kind of sucky. Yeah, it's really it's a shame because like by the end of the series you love Kazumi, but
Yeah.
at the
I
beginning, especially the first 3 episodes, you're like, man, come on, like Kazumi, just be a little better.
Yeah, and it rings. So this takes place in a high school, which is something we'll talk about later.
Mm.
And how Kazumi is kind of portrayed. She's a senior in the class. She's being paired up with Noriko. Noriko's a freshman. So it's a very weird dynamic, especially in Japan, where like elders and big sister and stuff like that it takes precedent. Um, Kazumi's actions in the first 3 episodes feel very like she cares for Noriko as a person, but she also like has a reputation to protect. It's
Mm-hmm.
very high schooly, like high school like reputation vibes. The cool kids and the competent ones and the smart ones, and that all kind of coalesces around Kazumi's character, up until about the fourth, fifth, and sixth episode. So I understand where her character's coming from. I love Kazumi as a character. Kazumi, especially around the third episode,
Mm-hmm.
is when I like peaked for her. Because she seems really caring. She really just wants to protect people, but she's also not gonna risk her life to be partnered with Noriko, who's really bad at piloting Gunbuster and the other Gundams. She's not gonna risk her life just so the coach can get off or something.
Yeah,
So
and that's for sure. Like Kazumi is such an interesting character
yeah,
for being like Kazumi is so interesting because like she's essentially made of like cliches. Like she's the older sister, she wants to be protective, but
mm,
she has to be like aloof and like professional. She's supposed to be like the blue cool side to Noriko's like hot-blooded side that we see later.
yeah.
Um,
And before Noriko like becomes you know really good at piloting Gunbuster, Jung is supposed to tap in for Noriko's like hot blooded side,
yeah,
in the second and third episode especially.
yeah. Um, I'll definitely talk about Jung a bit more because
She's a
I
very
really want to
interesting
talk.
character.
Dude, I really love Young. I really love her. Um, but one of the things I really like about the first episode, like, is the way it ends when she does the Inuzuma kick, which what I think in like I know in my copy it's translated as lightning kick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it's translated for you. I don't know if they actually spelled it out.
Yeah, it was lightning
Inuzuma.
kick.
Yeah, yeah, Inuzuma kick, which the Inuzuma kick itself is the rider kick, which is a common rider. So like this is a once again like this is showing like Gainax and especially the director Hideaki Anno their love for like geeky otaku culture of the time and like if you were in Japan, if you were a nerd who loved anime, who grew up on these shows, you watched Kamen Rider and you loved Kamen Rider. So it's very very telling that like it's such a show that Gunbuster was created for people who love anime and who grew up watching these geeky stuff. So like the fact that it ends on the rider kick, on the Inuzuma kick, I think is absolutely perfect. And that's how Noriko gets the respect of her friends. You know, she uses this special technique and she calls out the name, and it's so stupid and so anime, but like I get pumped every time I watch it.
It was a very big turning point. Everyone was watching. Kazumi was watching. The coach was watching, and we haven't talked about the coach yet. I'm sure we can do that after that.
Yeah.
But they were all just watching Noriko get pummeled by this girl, and Noriko wasn't even fighting back at the time until she had enough and then did the lightning kick. And it was just such a revelation of a moment where you saw Noriko as like, I'm not gonna take this side. I'm gonna do what I have to be who I want to be. I'm not gonna take these people anymore. And it was just such a big moment for her character in episode 1 even. That it really set the tone for how she would come off the rest of the episodes. Um, that fire that kind of happened at the end of episode 1 with the lightning kick, I was kind of disappointed a little bit because it didn't really show itself up until episode 4 when she used Gunbuster to save, the like big captain ship, destroy the mothership. So I was a little bit disappointed in that. All Noriko kind of did was cry up until then. Uh, but it was a really good moment to establish Noriko's character as someone who even though she's incompetent, she can do shit.
Yeah.
Um,
No, totally for sure. Like Noriko doing the Inazuma kick, it's supposed to be this hint that like there's so much more to her, that there is something inside this girl that is not. I don't even want to say special because like Noriko's whole thing is that she's not special. She's not this well of talent. She's this girl who works really hard, and like her pulling off the Inazuma kick, it's like, yeah, she's sloppy. Yeah, she messes up a lot, but when push came to shove, she delivers and she will do what she needs to do. And she's always gonna, she grinds her teeth, to the wheel, and she works hard and she has guts, and that's what matters the most.
yeah. So another main character we haven't talked about yet is the coach.
Yep.
So he's at first when he was introduced, I didn't know he was gonna be like a main character.
Okay.
I just thought he was the new coach. He kind of was chill and cool, and that would be it. Like he'd be done in the first episode. But later when he chooses Noriko to go up into space with Kazumi, to represent Japan basically. It kind of dawned, and when he went and showed Noriko like Kazumi running up the stairs with big weights on her feet and stuff like that, which we talked about earlier, it really dawned on me like this is the very cliche like the master wing kind of from Hunter x Hunter, like just this is the master. This is someone who will teach me. This is someone who will help me reach my full potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a very, is a very cliche thing in anime to have someone who is incompetent be trained by someone who um, who's way smarter and knows way more, and then they reach their full potential and all that. Coach, I think, is probably one of my favorite characters, just because of how much he believes in Noriko, his backstory and how he got injured and stuff like that, was very like influential. His disabilities, and even though he's partially disabled, he's still really like strong, and he gets things done. He knows what to do. That was really it was really cool and interesting to have that clash with a bunch of teenagers not knowing what to do or how to act.
Yeah, the coach is definitely like, once again, like going back to like Gunbuster is this anime that's meant to be seen by anime fans,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll talk more about that later as well. Like Coach is such the quintessential coach. Like he's kind of a drill sergeant. Like he dresses like a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
He like barks like a drill sergeant. He like makes them train through hell. But like the way he believes in Noriko, like when Noriko beats herself up all the entire show almost, until like the big moment in episode 5. Um, she's
Yeah.
she's constantly beating herself up. But Coach is the one like who's always got her back. Like in episode 3, episode 4, like Coach is always there for her, and it's
And
so great.
especially when Kazumi's like I'm not sure about Noriko. Don't team me up with her. The coach is
Mm.
always like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I know Noriko's potential. Um, you just have to believe in her. Um, and that's another thing I kind of didn't like was kind of the essentialism. You know, uh, the coach was on the same spaceship as Noriko's father when he died, and he was the last one to be saved. His Noriko's father basically saved the coach. So at first it seems to everybody else like, oh, the coach is just sucking up to her. And sorry, going back to why I didn't necessarily like that decision at first. Um, the coach had planned on Noriko being the only gunbuster pilot, right? And his basis of this is because she was the daughter of his admiral. So I really didn't like how it was set. Like, you know, Noriko's the only person who can do this. Noriko, even with all her flaws, her ignorance about battle and stuff like that, he chooses Noriko, who is is way underqualified to do this kind of training and stuff like that. So I really didn't like that decision at first. I really did like it in the later episodes. I kind of it warmed up to me. But yeah, I'm just talking about how my reaction was when I first noticed like he's choosing Noriko. Why?
Yeah,
Why?
and like that's it's a very anime thing. You're like,
Yeah.
um, even back then, like that was such a sports anime thing where like this newbie comes in and they suck, and you're like, everyone's like, oh, this person sucks. But as the series goes by, and as you watched him grow, and as you watched him like suffer, and like put in the hard work and show these guts, like you begin to love them. And like I know the exact feeling. Like you watch Noriko at the beginning, you're like, man, Noriko, you're kind of like sucky. You're very, like you cry all the time. You're like fawning over this other girl. Like, why am I supposed to believe in you? Um, and then like as the series goes on and as she grows and as you watch her grow, you begin to understand like why Coach believed in her. And it's I don't know. I remember I know thinking to myself. I remember thinking when I first watched it that how much I loved that. And so, but how much I loved it because as a teacher, I sometimes have that feeling with kids, where like I see a kid and I see something in them that they don't see, and I just try my best to pull that out of them. So I saw
Mm.
that in the coach, but I also loved it because it's such a stupid old anime cliche. This coach who's like super nasty. He's just like a hard ass of a dude who actually is a giant softie for his students.
Yeah.
Like that really gets me.
I don't like that cliche personally.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm kind of overall, but again, I in the later episodes, it kind of, it warmed up to me, and I realized where he was coming from, why he thought this, and all that stuff, which leads in kind of into episode 2. So I don't really remember episode 2 all that well.
Episode 2 is when they go into space.
That it's just them going into space and
they go into space. They meet Zhang,
and then they fight, right?
They do that fight and they get in trouble.
Okay.
I want to say episode 2 is also like the scene, the bath scene where they're all like,
oh yeah, it was the end of that.
Yeah, it's like, yes, like gratuitous nudity for teenage girls. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So episode 2, I guess, even though I didn't remember it right off the top of my head, episode 2 was really good. It introduced Zhang, who's this, she was Russian, right?
Yeah, she's from the Soviet
Union. Yeah, she's from the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union's still a thing in futuristic 2015,
Yeah, in the year 2020, the Soviet Union was still around, and they had giant robots.
It just works, guys. But Zhang as a character seemed very, like, I thought, it would be a rivalry between Kazumi and Noriko. Kazumi, Noriko, and Zhang, like, all three of them would kind of fight it out. And Noriko would kind of just be, off the sidelines. Which is what happened, That's in the middle of the episode, about after they, settled down and started, like, training. Zhang pulls aside Kazumi and Noriko and is like, hey, let's settle this right now. I'm the best. Fight me, right? Which I don't know why she thought that immediately. I really don't know her intentions, but they fight. Yeah, anime. They fight in these mechs. Kazumi, she maintains her aloof coolness, and then they fight and basically crash into the side of the space station, and then Noriko comes to where the hole is, and this is something I really wanted to talk about, that I am probably going to be fawning over the rest of the entire episode. How the aliens were presented was very cool.
Oh, dude, even though the alien monsters, like, they're not really shown all that often.
Yeah.
When they show up, it's
you can menacing.
Yeah.
They're intelligent, so like, oh, they're gonna outmatch us. They have perfected warp technology and light speed and stuff like that. So like, hey, these guys are a threat. So when they crash into, like, the high security area of the space station, and we see the big lanky kind of spider like appendages and like big like tentacle like chitin coating and stuff like that, it just looks really cool. And the lighting in that episode for that specific scene is amazing. Because how they lit that alien, like, gave me chills. Like, I love I love old Alien movies. Like, I really like Alien. I really like Alien versus Predator. I really like games like Dead Space and Halo and stuff like that have similar kind of aliens. And how they created this, like, abomination just gave me so much joy.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. Like, the design, and I just want to say in general, the designs in Gunbuster are just incredible, and the aliens, like, I think it needs to be it can't be stressed enough that Gunbuster came out in this time where, like, aliens like that and monsters like that were not very prevalent.
No, yeah,
and, like, they could just kind of go buck wild with the way they drew monsters, and you can really see it in the way they're shown in Gunbuster. Like, you just look at them and they're horrifying. It's so scary, which is why, like, later episodes it becomes even more satisfying when they start fighting them. Like, it feels so good. And if we ever watch Die Buster, like, we'll talk more about the monster design of Die Buster.
Yeah. The
But and I'll talk about I'll probably talk about this a little bit later when I want to talk about the influence. But like the monster influence of Gunbuster, I think can definitely be seen in later anime.
mhm,
Especially stuff directed by Hideaki Anno, who directed Gunbuster.
mhm.
Like you can see how like what like the monsters, like they don't have to speak. You don't have to understand these monsters, but like
You just know they
what
want you
the
dead,
yeah
and you know
the
you gotta survive.
yeah the feeling they evoke, I think, is far more important. And like I said, I'll get into that a little bit more later
Yeah,
about like Anno's direction and what Anno wanted for Gunbuster and what the team wanted, and like what and how well I think they how well they accomplished their goal, and how like when I watch anime now, how I think about like uh the direction of the direction by the director and like what they want, and
mm,
how sometimes that kind of honest feeling of Gunbuster is something I don't get as much today in anime.
yeah. So so yeah, the aliens are just insanely like cool to me. I really like they give me like Lovecraftian vibes or like
Hmm.
H.R. Geiger vibes. So I really like that, and I really like how I'm bringing it up again. How Lovecraftian it kind of feels, like not just in the monster design and stuff like that, but especially in later episodes when these huge fleets of like human spaceships go through and like even encounter a small force, they come out with like 10% of their original size. Like they get wiped out entirely. And just the numbers that they throw around when the aliens are about to invade just are very like it's inevitable. Like this feels like you would never survive it, but they do eventually, and it's just really satisfying, and really like scary at the same time when it happens.
Yeah.
Um,
I think episode 2 also has the moment where they introduce the Rip Van Winkle effect in outer
mm,
space, and how like Noriko
oh
thinks she might be able to save her father, and that
yeah,
scene, every single time I see that scene, like it hits me hard. Like what if you could like what if like you could literally like be in like, because you have to understand like in Gunbuster that like for Noriko, it's been like a good portion of her life. Her dad's gone,
yeah,
but she ends up on this ship that is her father's ship, and because of the time dilation, only an hour has passed. And it's like, sure, years have passed for her, but it's only an hour for her father. What
yeah,
if she could rescue her father? And like, that's such a human thing, and like, to risk it all to try to save her dad, it's so hard. It's gut wrenching,
yeah. I
and
I
like, sorry.
no, you're good, you're good. My initial reaction to Noriko and Kazumi, and the coach seeing the what was the ship called?
Like Lex Leon.
Lex Leon.
I
Them
can look it up.
coming. Okay.
Go
Them.
on.
Yeah.
No, you keep going.
Oh, I thought you said wait. Never mind.
No.
Norik. Them all three coming upon Noriko's father's old ship, and then Noriko's gut reaction to, you know, throw aside all her other feelings and just go save him, is really like emotionally taxing, like because we as an audience know with all certainty that Noriko's father's dead, right? Like it didn't occur to me that he'd be able to save her or save him because that's just how anime works. Um, but in especially in the voice acting and how it's portrayed, Kazumi's destroyed by seeing this ship, and Kazumi immediately goes to save her father, and then when
Noriko.
Noriko
No,
goes
you're
to
good. You're good.
save her father, and then when she finds out the entire captain's bay is destroyed, she breaks down. Um, and so it's very impactful. I almost cried during that scene, and I did cry in a couple of scenes in the later episodes, which I'll talk about. I don't care.
Oh,
Toxic masculinity,
no.
screw you. Um,
Oh
but
no, dude. I'll talk all day about
yeah,
how Gunbuster makes you cry.
oh, it's very emotional. Um, So you touched on two things. I talk, you know, without any purpose. So I apologize. You did talk about two things. Time dilation
Mhm.
was a big part of the story in Gunbuster, and it so much so that I literally, after we watched the first three episodes, I had to show Josh, like, here's some Vsauce videos about time dilation, because it's such a cool concept, and it's so weird. It's something I've never seen before in an anime. How time operates differently under different circumstances, and so when Noriko and Kazumi and the coach are going the speed of light, they don't feel time. They don't feel time at all. They don't age really. They age 10 minutes in their scene, but when they come back to the spaceship, it's been 6 months, right?
Mhm.
It's been an insane amount of time, and so playing with that concept, they do it in further episodes, and we'll talk about that. Playing with that concept to such a degree is so it was so new and so untouched on that it kind of like made me really happy. Like I was like, oh, this is something I've never seen before. This is insanely cool. Um, and other faux, like, not faux, it's not faux science, I'm sorry, other science concepts that they play around with, and that they use in the anime are all really, you know, interesting and new, and really well done in how they're written and portrayed. um, so time dilation is huge, huge, huge in this series, and it's a very cool concept that they get to play around with, and a very, very useful emotional tool later in the series. So
Yeah. Time. The sci-fi of this series, like this series, like I don't want to say it's high sci-fi because
mm,
it's not that grounded. Um, but like whenever they do touch on like these nice sci-fi concepts and they use it for storytelling, it's done really really well,
mm,
and there's like a level of respect, and it really shows that this was a team that loved sci-fi, that loved the ideas of sci-fi, and like thought of like looked at the stuff in science fiction and in science in general and space travel. Like they looked at it and like how they were, you could tell they looked at it and went, how can we use this for a story? How can we throw this in? How can we justify this? And that scene where Noriko opens the hatch and sees that the front half of, it's called Luxion,
Luxion.
by the way. Yeah. And she opens the door and she sees like the infinite, the light speed, warp speed lights, and that there is no hope for her dad, and she screams, and to pull her out, and like they save her before she gets like sucked into, you know, the endless void of time. Dad is so cool. It's so neat. It's also horrifying.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff there. Um,
It.
yeah. Oh, it's like I said, I could probably go hours talking about episode 1 and 2, but I think 3 and 4 is when stuff really starts to pick up for
Yeah.
Gunbuster.
Um. So another thing I wanted to touch on real quick,
Yeah.
is that this series plays a lot with uh, how these events affect the characters, which I've seen a lot of people like hate on, like in the later half of like Kill la Kill. Gon is experiencing like trauma because of his past experiences and stuff like that, and people like
Mhm.
hated that. Um,
Hunter Hunter, you mean?
yeah, yeah. Sorry, did I say something different? Kill
You
like
said
I
Kill la
said Kill
Kill.
la Kill. I'm dumb. In the later half of Hunter x Hunter, sorry, my favorite anime, and I got the name wrong. And people really didn't like that. And seeing people like rag on how writers portrayed these characters and how their lives and how the stuff that they go through affects them. You know, Noriko is basically traumatized after she sees this ship, after she knows her father is dead. And Kazumi, very pretty rightfully so, is like, hey, Noriko cannot be my partner. And so at the end of the episode, don't Kazumi Noriko literally like breaks up the team. Um, so it's a very, it's a very, good way to portray how these events impact the characters that they happen to, and especially when you have a father die, especially when you have all this responsibility thrust onto you. When the coach literally said she was the hope for humanity in later episodes,
Hmm.
these would really hurt the psyche of what is a 17-year-old girl. So it's just very, looking at how these events would impact a character. You have to accept this is how it's written. This is how it would be. It's not high. You said it wasn't high fantasy, but this is kind of grounded in the sense that the characters are supposed to be portrayed as real.
Hmm.
Um, if
Yeah, there's
if
there's
these
there's
yeah
a raw honesty to the
yeah
characters,
if
and that
it
Gunbuster really sells itself
yeah
on its characters.
if this stuff was happening to normal people, you should expect PTSD. You should expect
Yeah.
depression. You should expect it to have an impact on these people. So how they portrayed that, and how they changed the characters over time to present that was very, very good, and something that, again, I don't see very often because people rag on it. But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed how they treated that.
Yeah. Um, and that's something that is very Ano, and I'll talk more about
Mm.
Ano later. I know we keep saying like we'll talk about this later. We will get to this.
Yeah.
And hence why like also like we'll talk a little bit about 3 and 4 where they introduce like Smith.
Mm.
What Smith? Like whatever Smith's last name was.
Sure. I could find it.
That's
Smith
big.
Torin.
Yeah, Smith Torin. Like
Yeah.
they introduce Smith because like Kazumi doesn't want to be Noriko's partner, and then like they go out into the battle, and like she was supposed to be like Smith's secondary, but like she freaks out in the midst of space because space is kind of freaking scary, and so are these monsters. And so she loses Smith, who's supposed to be. Oh, Smith. Smith is such a waste of a character, and I don't mean that like I don't want to say that like in a mean way. I mean that in the like, because there isn't enough time to build up the relationship of Smith and Noriko and Smith as a character. Like Smith is introduced and like 5-7 minutes later he dies,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, that's sad. I guess like was I supposed to care about him?
It's very funny how they did that. Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's supposed to be like when Smith dies, Noriko realizes that like if she doesn't get her act together, people die, and that like she failed Smith. Smith believed in him. Smith believed in her, and she let him down. And she can like never say she's sorry. And that's I think that's something that really affects Noriko.
Mm.
And like other people have talked about this when it comes to Gunbuster, like these side characters, like her best friend, like Smith. They purely exist to show effects on Noriko. Like they're kind of just plot devices
Yeah.
for Noriko to grow because of.
Yeah.
Um,
Which
and so like
yeah.
so like in episode 4 when they're being attacked and there's no hope and Noriko jumps into Gunbuster by herself to save them, like the prototype Gunbuster.
Mm.
That's the emotional moment of Noriko finding confidence.
Yeah. So it was episode 3, right? Where
Yeah,
where Jong tried to like fight Noriko, or was that episode 4?
It's not episode. I don't think it's episode 4.
So it must be episode 3.
Let's see, episode 3. Episode 3 is Smith. And that's when she loses Smith, and that's the emotional high point of episode 3. Episode 4 is when they have the first battle scene, and
Yeah.
you get the badass like the drum and brass Gunbuster theme.
Mm.
The bump 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 bump.
I wish I would have paid attention to the music a little more.
Ooh,
It was
music.
It was on BitChute though, okay? Like,
Okay.
You can't blame me.
The music for Gunbuster is kind of awesome. Like, they play quite a bit of the theme when they introduce Kazumi to Noriko in episodes 1.
Mm.
And every now and then they have like the Noriko theme, which I think is just called Noriko. Um, and like the emotional moments are to that theme. But when they show Gunbuster in episode 4, and he's like Gunbuster pops out, and the admiral is like, "What are you doing? Like, don't bring out Gunbuster." And the coach is like, "You do it. Like, ignore him. Do what you got to do. I trust you." It's so good, and the music along with it is
Mm.
triumphant. It's super emotional. Um, it's filled with hope and filled with like that hard work and guts feel of Gunbuster, and it excites me. Like I listen to that song on its own, and just to get me pumped, and it's just so like words can't describe. It's hype. It's a hype song.
I really need to. So I really like the original soundtracks, OSTs from anime, um, and I've noticed anime has the most like heart I've ever like seen in music. Um, so I really want to review the Gunbuster OST because I really love that kind of music. I didn't think I got to experience it nearly as much in crappy TV speakers and
Mm-hmm.
bit shoot quality. So
Yeah,
I'll definitely have to re-go over it. So
definitely. If anything, just listen to the Noriko theme and the Gunbuster theme,
mm-hmm.
because that, and of course the song from episode 5,
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right.
um,
Um,
which I know we're blasting through 3 and 4,
yeah,
um, but mainly because like, well, 3 and 4 like are good emotion, like good episodes. Like every episode's really good. Episode 3, like the emotional point is Smith, and that she loses Smith, and she loses confidence, and that like Noriko beats herself up because like she still doesn't feel like she's good enough to be the pilot for Gunbuster, and a pilot in general. Like she feels like she's failing Kazumi, who doesn't believe in her. She feels like she's failing Coach, who does believe in her. Um, but then we get to episode 4, where she decides like she needs to take a chance. She needs to take a stance.
yeah.
She needs to do something. And I feel like whenever I watch episode 4 and the way it ends, like that's the feeling you get watching anime now. Like episode 4 is all of that condensed. Like if you're a big fan of Gurren Lagann, which if you are a fan of Gurren Lagann, you should watch Gunbuster. Um, the episode where Simon, I think it's episode 9, right? Where Simon uh, exclaims that like he's a man now, that he's not gonna live in the shadow of his older brother. That is 100% Gunbuster. Um, any moment in any like sports anime, action anime, any anime really, where the main character finally like finds their confidence, finally finds their purpose, and takes a chance, makes the decision to take a chance,
Mm-hmm.
and then like is successful, is episode 4. And the way they build up to that, like everything's breaking down, there is no hope, the monsters are gonna eat them, and she stops them with 10 minutes on the clock.
Yeah. So
It's it's so satisfying.
mm, I felt that way too. So in a way, I don't really separate episode 3 and 4 all like in my mind. I mean, of course, they have different cliches, they have different themes, they have different kind of arcs, plot points, and stuff like that. Um, but I kind of see them in the same respect. So in episode 3, uh, God, I hate his name. It's so uncharacteristic of the series.
Smith.
Smith. Smith. When Noriko is basically disowned by Kazumi, she goes to Smith and is like, "Hey, you want to partner up?" Or doesn't he ask if she wants to partner up? I have no idea.
Yeah, he sees that she has been like abandoned by her
Yeah,
partner. He's like, "Hey, I'll be your second."
yeah. Um, and then when they finally get into battle, because they find like a small battalion of alien ships, and they're like everyone to battle stations, and they all go out. Smith is like the lead person, and then Noriko's supposed to be his defense,
Yeah.
and then Noriko just freezes up. You know,
Yeah.
she can't handle all the lights. She can't handle looking at the edge of space and the futility of it. These spacecrafts go really fast, so that just gives her more anxiety because she can't really even see them like for shit. And then Smith ends up lost. It's assumed that he's dead. Smith basically dies, and then that is like another breaking point to Noriko, and her emotional state just goes way downhill. And then the fourth episode rolls around, and they get attacked in. Don't they get attacked in warp? Or
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. They like are warping
yeah.
to Earth, and then they get attacked inside of warp space, which they never thought was possible. And then they send out all the units, and Noriko isn't picked because Noriko has she basically got someone killed, and Coach just won't let her out anymore. And I think that battle is when Linda dies. Is that correct? Linda's another small character, the best friend of Jung. So that is kind of an emotional scene. Jung is really mad, and it seems like Jung and Kazumi are about to die even. And then in the distance, they see Gunbuster, who's like 25 times their mech, just rise from the belly of the ship. And it's such a defining moment because how Noriko like evolves as a character in it is very like strong. Like she's basically she's like, I got Smith killed, I can't do this anymore, I'm relying on myself. Smith, I'm sorry, no more tears. Basically she morphs her whole battle identity to like, I'm not ever gonna let this happen again. I'm not gonna cry anymore. And then she gets in Gunbuster. Gunbuster's prototype at this point.
Gunbuster, it's incomplete.
And so she basically only has 10 minutes of fuel to destroy this fleet. And then she goes out there, and then she just destroys the enemy ship, and it's the enemy battleship. And it's just it was the point of no return for Noriko. It was the point where her character was defined, and that is the big anime battle. That is the big anime battle that you were talking about, and it's so short, I feel, but it's very encompassing of how other anime battles I've seen go. I mean, she only has 10 minutes, right? So she has to do this quick. She has to do it efficient, and then her true potential comes out. And Coach is really happy. It's a very
Kazumi sees like why she should believe in Noriko. It's so good. It's such a good episode.
It is very good. I really like that episode.
And then the way it leads into episode 5. Episode 5 might be my favorite episode.
No, I agree.
Even though like I think the ending of episode 6 is the best thing, and I'm gonna bring. I can't wait. But like episode 5, like we finally find out that Coach has like essentially space cancer.
Yeah. Heavy doses of space radiation, they say. So.
Yeah. Noriko is in love with him. This is why she wanted to pilot.
It was Kazumi that was in love with him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Kazumi is in love with Coach, and Noriko finds out that he's dying, and then they get sent out to space, and they know that like because of time dilation, so like even though it'll only be like 30 minutes for them or an hour, it'll be 6 months or something like that. Like they'll come back in December, and most likely he won't survive the return. And like, Kazumi breaks down. Like Kazumi, who's been this like cool, aloof person, who's been very elegant and noble, this like perfect older sister archetype, she breaks down, and then we get the moment, like the big Gunbuster moment, that like finally after like four and a half episodes, we finally see Gunbuster actually in action. Like it's actually doing stuff. It's very short. It's like 6 minutes long. And it's maybe one of the the best.
That was my favorite fight scene of the entire series, though.
It's so good. Like, I've watched a lot of robot anime. I've watched a lot of action stuff. and I can rewatch those 6 minutes of Gunbuster over and over again, and every single time, even though I know every single beat, I know all the colors, I know the song, I know the quotes, I can quote along to that whole scene every single time. I just have a giant smile across my face. Because it's the way that Noriko is like talking to Kazumi, like, here's the Kazumi hasn't believed in Noriko into this moment, and it's like it'd be very easy to write Noriko as like, wow, you didn't believe in me, why aren't you stepping up? But instead Noriko's like, hey, we need to do this because we've lost people are going to die, and right now we're the only thing in the way of humanity being saved. We have to do what we have to do. Like, I need you to believe in yourself because I believe in you, Kazumi. We need to do this. And then boom, the song hits. Kazumi says like, you're right, I understand, let's go, let's combine. And they transform. It's super anime.
It's
the anime
very
pops the anime pop song is playing. Oh, dude.
it's very Sailor Moon transformation mixed with like Power Rangers Megazord. It's very fun. Like it's very
So
yeah.
And that scene is also iconic because of how much it calls back to classic anime tropes from before Gunbuster.
Yeah. So episode 5 is my favorite episode. I'm not gonna lie. It's the end of the first arc, and then the next arc is just episode 6. So and episode 5 kind of reverses Noriko and Kazumi's roles. So like when they go out, Kazumi's in love with the coach. The coach is they think that the coach is about to die because space cancer. And right when they hit the point of no return, Kazumi just breaks. As you said, Kazumi just breaks down. She can't handle it. She wants to leave, and Noriko has to step up. She has to be the bigger sister. Noriko's been calling Kazumi the big sister for 3-4 episodes.
That's that scene. She no longer says Onesama. She says Kazumi.
Yeah.
And like that's really important.
Noriko has to step up. Noriko knows the what is it? The scale of this battle. What this battle would mean for the, rest of humankind. And Noriko's like, "Hey, we've lost people. People are dead. People are going to die unless we do something. We got to do something." And Kazumi kind of snaps out of it. They combine, and it is the best fight scene I have seen in an older anime. Like, it's really good. I
think what makes it so good, not only because of the bomb ass song that's in it, it's I think the emotion behind it. It's like it's really hype. All the episodes were leading up to this one moment. You get to love Kazumi for being like the professional, efficient one who's clearly like smart and knows how to do all the technical stuff for Gunbuster, while like Noriko is like the body. She's literally piloting it and like moving Gunbuster. And the Gunbuster, like the whole fight scene, is a homage to everything that makes anime, and like old otaku culture, like how Noriko calls out every single attack. She says Buster Missile, Buster Beam, Buster Collider, Buster Shield, Super Inazuma Kick. I can watch that's 30 seconds in the Inazuma Kick.
Yeah.
And every time I get so excited. Just like they launch into the air for no reason in outer space to crash onto the giant, like the spaceship. And then as she crashes, the Gunbuster does the famous Gunbuster pose. Like, this is the pose that has been used in anime for like 30 years.
The cross arm, legs spread kind of, like,
chin up. You see it in Gurren Lagann. It's in Evangelion. Darling the Franxx, I think, does it. Kill la Kill does it.
Yeah.
and every single time it's done as a homage to Gunbuster, to that specific show. And Gunbuster was doing it as an homage to Getter Robo, which is like a robot manga from the 70s, which is also really good. Like it's just super anime in the way they call that attacks, the way that every single attack and moment is so brilliantly key framed. Like there's so many strong key poses, and I feel like in action movies and action scenes and action anime now, there's so much focus on like there's so much focus on movement. Like they need to move around, you need to see them and have this hectic camera, and you don't. That's not in this fight scene, and it's like the over the top action isn't what makes Gunbuster action good. It's these really cool poses and these really cool calling out of attacks, and it's like hot blooded and it's emotional. Like when Noriko screams, I think is still one of the top hot blooded giant robot pilot screams of all time, like top 3 maybe. And that's like number 1 and 2 would be like the guys who pilot Getter Robo. Like it's crazy how emotional and fun and so much fun that episode 5 is in its ending and the way they fight.
Episode 5 again is literally my favorite episode. A lot of because of how Kazumi is portrayed, and then how she changes and evolves. I don't really like Kazumi trying to marry the coach or trying to get with the coach, but it adds another layer of emotionality to it. It makes her, if coach dies, she lost him forever. She didn't get to say goodbye. It's like Noriko losing her father. And another really, I think the longer piece of this episode was them spending time on Earth. They got their diplomas. They've been gone for 15 years, 10 years maybe, 10 years I think.
It's been a good while. Like her best friend has a kid now, but she's still the same age, and it's just like this time dilation.
How they play with time in this series is one of the most interesting and best aspects about it, I think. They come back, they get their diplomas. It's been 10 years Earth time. It's been a year their time, I think. They meet Takami after they get their diplomas. Takami's aged 10 years. She has a kid. She has a job. She has a family. And seeing how Takami still loves and cares for Noriko as a person, it's very and especially it's because the dynamics have changed. Takami's 10 years older, so it's very motherly kind of. Like Takami has a kid. Takami still cares for Noriko, but it's now changed to, instead of being best friends, it's now like Takami wants to care for a child, kind of, because Noriko's still 17, basically
17, 18,
and one of the most impactful portions of that episode is when she talks about the Eltrium, I think is what it's called. And the Eltrium is like a big spaceship that was being built in Japan, and it's basically supposed to be the bastion of humanity. If Earth is attacked, they're just gonna escape in it and stuff like that. And then Takami's like, "Hey, I'm not guaranteed a spot. Like, it's 1 in 4,000 chance for a civilian to get a spot on this, arc, basically." And then she almost breaks down crying, like, "Hey, I don't care if I get to live. Just take my daughter. Like, if you can pull some strings, and if you could make sure my daughter gets on there if something happens to me, like, please do that." And that part of the anime made me cry. Like, oh, thank you. Did you order food?
Yeah.
Thank you.
that's totally a legit, you know, like we get to it's so simple, like it's such a simple cliche thing, and someone could easily write it off as like, oh, they're just what a cheap blow, but I feel like it's so honest and real, you know, it's so like
It
because it
feels
was
yeah.
1989, it didn't feel like they were going for cheap tricks. It felt like, oh, this is something that would be real. This is a feeling that Takami would have, and that she would ask her friend, who is the pilot, to do for her.
Yeah.
And it gives Noriko once again, going back to like how Takami and Smith are supposed to be the things that help motivate Noriko.
Hmm.
It's this thing like Noriko isn't just no longer is Noriko just like trying to prove her worth to herself, but now she has this power and this responsibility to help people, and like really only she can do it.
Hmm. Uh, so I really liked that scene, um, and you were touching on how like it felt very real, and something I kind of touched on a little earlier, is that this is something that they would have to think about. You know, when the aliens are portrayed, when you see the massive numbers, the massive amount of technology, and the massive weaponry they have, you know, like this is a very real possibility that they're gonna have to evacuate the entire planet. Literally, the sixth episode, I thought they were gonna come home to it being destroyed. Like I thought that would be the end of the anime, but we'll save that for a little later.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a very real emotion. This was a very likely scenario that Takami had to question, and the emotion that was put into it in the writing and in the acting. I really love how this entire anime is acted. Just made you feel like, oh God, this this is what's gonna have to happen, really.
Yeah.
And it made me cry. It made me like tear up, you know. So
Like as then don't get me wrong, this series is very silly. Like it's very anime. It's very, you know, bombastic, and the fact that it's a giant robot show. But I think because it's a giant robot show, they get to really put on display emotion and feeling,
mm-hmm.
and that's one of the reasons why I love giant robot shows. Like giant robot shows get to exaggerate so much emotion in a way that like resonates with an audience, because giant robots get to be the cool action thing, but the giant robots, I think, begin to embody and personify what the series is all about. And when I talk about Hit Anna later, I'll talk about that with Ava, um, and how much like the way Ava is done is such an antithesis to Gunbuster,
Mm.
in that Gunbuster is a symbol of hope, and Ava, the Avas are kind of different. They're not exactly a symbol of hope, um, but you get to really feel those exaggerated melodramatic moments. And I think because like how like large and over the top the stakes are in Gunbuster, it feels not cheap. Like doesn't feel like it doesn't feel cheap.
Mm.
Like it feels legit. And it's one of the reasons why I love the series so much. Like those little moments, along with like the bombastic end of episode 5, and then the bombastic end to episode 6,
I love that. I love that end. I honestly did.
which I bet I feel like with episode 6 you might have a question that I can totally answer for you.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
I guess we should get into episode 6 then.
yeah. Um, I bet you're wondering why was it in black and white.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, me and Josh were wondering that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, is this like, did they rip it from somewhere that didn't have color? You know, is BitChute like messing up for me? But yeah. So if you don't know, for I know you know for the people listening, the last episode is in all black and white,
Yeah.
and it was very weird. I kind of thought it was like a beginning, like past kind, you know, like flashback kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The almost the entire episode didn't have color. So can you enlighten me? Can you tell me why that is?
So it is black and white. It's done. a black and white episode done on color film, so
Mm.
it's not budget reasons. A lot of people are like, oh, did they run out of budget? Especially because like
Oh
the
yeah,
war
the battle
scene,
scene. Yeah, it was all just
it's just like,
sketches and.
yeah. They didn't run out of it. Wasn't This wasn't a budget issue. Like every single episode of Gunbuster was released on VHS, 2 episodes per tape, which means episode 5 was released alongside episode 6.
Mm.
And with the way episode 6 looks, or episode 5 looks, they probably had money, or at least a budget for episode 6.
Yeah.
Um, Especially with the way episode 6 later ends, like they definitely had a budget. But once again, goes back to like how Gunbuster was a series that the director and the team, they wanted to put every single influence they've ever had ever into it. So if the beginning of Gunbuster was a sports anime, and then episodes 3 and 4 were Gundam, and episode 2 was like shoujo manga love triangle, Yuri bait. Episode 5 was super robots. Episode 6 is like war drama.
Yeah.
And they wanted to capture the seriousness of what was going to happen in episode 6, and they felt like the best way to show the seriousness was to get rid of the color.
Yeah.
I think it works.
Yeah,
like
I do.
I think if it was in color, I don't think the ending would hit me as hard.
Yeah.
Like the specific after credits kind of ending thing.
Yeah.
Not the awesome punch. The awesome punch is that needs to be black and white.
Yeah, of course. So, do you mind if I recap episode 6 real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So in episode 6, it's been, 15 Earth years? It's been 15 years on Earth, basically. And Kazumi stayed behind with the coach. They got married, they were together and stuff like that. And then the coach died, basically. So Kazumi was like, hey, I gotta move on. I want to go see Noriko again, and I have to, fight for the world, basically. So she goes back up and meets Noriko. And it's been only a year, or it's been like 6 months for them? It's been like 5 months for them?
I think it's like a year and a half, maybe.
Okay.
Like it I want to say 18 months, I think.
Okay. So it's been...
But like...
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's Kazumi is now a full-grown adult. Noriko's maybe in her 20s.
Noriko's 19, 20 at this point.
Yeah.
And Kazumi's literally like 35 or something.
Yeah.
So, the dynamic between them, again, with Tanaki, or Takami, sorry. The dynamic between Noriko and Kazumi kind of switches from, little sister, big sister to mom and child again. This is kind of the second time that happened with two characters, but this is more impactful because Kazumi's been with us the entirety of the rest of the episodes. Anyway, so Kazumi gets credence to pilot this huge ship called like the Black Hole, like Buster or something. I don't know.
I think it's like Buster Machine number 6, I want to say, or like number 3.
It was number 3.
Number 3 is like it's a black hole bomb. It's formed through like a degeneracy reactor, which a lot of the science in Gunbuster is kind of nonsense, but it's still cool. Like there's a degeneracy reactor that like is supposed to essentially like implode Jupiter.
Yeah, they literally like condensed Jupiter into this big this huge capsule-looking thing that's the size of a planet.
It's rad.
Yeah, just to ignite like a black hole and destroy a huge enemy fleet that was coming in. It's really cool how it was done, and I really, really liked kind of the sci-fi aspects of it. So anyway, Kazumi basically goes back up. She sees Noriko. Noriko is it's weirded out by the age change, and Kazumi actually, my favorite part of this episode was, and the part that made me cry again, was when Kazumi brought a letter from Takami's mom, or Takami's daughter, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
she's like, I really want to meet you because my mom talks about you all the time. Oh
Oh,
man, that part, I
yeah.
remember getting that part. I was like, oh, that's
Like,
they're gonna do this, aren't they? They're gonna mess me up now, aren't they?
I think I've been saying the name. I think I've been saying the wrong name. Let me look it up real quick. Because Takami's the child, right? Of her best friend. What's her best friend's
I'm
name?
not gonna lie to you. As much as I love that show, as much as I love Gunbuster, I don't remember Noriko's best friend's name. So I've just been trusting you. That's Takami.
No, it's Kimiko. I'm dumb.
Kimiko. Oh
Kimiko.
wow, I'm dumb too.
Yeah.
We apologize to all those who've been listening. Like,
I,
oh, it's Kimiko, you idiots.
I'll put an asterisk like on the video or something.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever. I'll make it an edit.
Yeah.
So Kimiko.
Kimiko.
Apologies. Kimiko asks her daughter to give Noriko a letter, and then Noriko gives that letter. Or sorry, goddamn. Takami gives that letter to Kazumi, and then Kazumi gives that letter to Noriko, and it's from Kimiko. These names are very alike. I apologize. And basically, Kimiko is like, "Hey, I know you're going to be in space and on an important mission. I don't have much time left. I know you might not be able to make it back home to see me, because of how the time dilation works in this universe. But please, if you could come back home to see my daughter, I would really appreciate it." That made me tear up.
Mhm.
Like that made me like really emotional because I'm like, Kimiko's, even though she's a small character and Takami's a smaller character, the emotion behind the scene, and even though they know they might not see each other at all again, it gets me very emotional because I'm like, oh, she might not see her best friend, but she's still wishing her well, and she still knows, and she still wants her to know that she loves her.
Yeah.
So it got me to cry. Like it
I,
did.
it's once again, it's a very shoujo manga
Yeah.
thing. It's a very anime thing. I think like if anyone has a good friend that like you don't talk to very often, but like when you see them again, it's like no time has passed.
Yeah.
I feel like that is what they were trying to go for with Noriko and her friend. That like yes, all this time could pass between them, but like literally like years have passed um for Tomaki, right? Or Kimiko?
Yeah. So
Yeah, for Kimiko.
it's been 35 years since she's seen Noriko.
Yeah, yeah. Like there's giant gaps in between them seeing each other, but like for Noriko, it's only a few years, but like the feelings between 3 years and 30 years is still the same between them, and I think that's kind of beautiful in a way. And it's also really sad. And I remember when they do the letter, and she's like, "I hope to see you." It mirrors, its bookend for like the beginning of the series that begins with like, "My name is Noriko, and my dad is a pilot, and one day I want to go up to space so I can see my dad."
And that really
Like,
reflects the reality of being in space.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
like the series begins with that letter, that like presentation by Noriko, and then it essentially ends with a friend of Noriko having a daughter who also wants to see Noriko.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, this is how they end. This is how they're gonna end the series. Like, this is gonna be the emotional gut punch that like Noriko will not get to see.
Kimiko.
Her
Hello.
and like that really hit me. Oh, what?
Oh, you cut off a little bit. My bad.
Oh, dang it!
You're fine.
What did I last say?
You said Noriko would never be able to see blank again, or like, it cut off.
All right, so Noriko would never be able to see her success, like her success in saving her friend, saving her home. She won't get to see it, and so like when you see the battle and the battle's done, it's people lose, but they're like they need to set off this black hole bomb, because if they don't, these space monsters are gonna take over them.
Yeah,
and
they're literally like at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, right?
Yeah, so something like that.
Yeah, and they're trying to ignite this black hole to basically stop all these aliens from getting to them.
and I want to get into like the big idea behind the black hole bomb and what they're gonna do, because
Mm.
I think that's a really interesting thing to talk about.
Okay, you could go for it. Do you want me to finish recapping the episode, or do you want to just go into that?
Well, I can. I think just. I think we can tackle the idea once we get through the ending of the episode.
Okay. So yeah, uh, Kazumi gets to pilot this big black hole. We talked about it, and they're trying to you know set it off to basically, was it at like the home world of the aliens or something? I don't know.
So the aliens are revealed at the start of episode 6 that they're like the universe's antibodies. Like
Mm,
the the humans are essentially this virus, and they're seen as this force that could be dangerous to outer space, to
mm,
the universe. And so the space monsters, the aliens, they are supposed to consume and destroy anything that might be a threat.
okay.
um and so the question becomes like, they asked this, one of the people asked Kazumi this, like, is it even, isn't it hubris, isn't it, do we really have the right to fight against the literal universe if the universe wants us gone? And Kazumi is like, it's not about right or wrong, it's about survival. We want to survive, we want to live, and we want to be here.
Yeah.
So like, even if the universe doesn't want us here, we're gonna keep going forward.
So I don't I again I don't really know why they set off the bomb where they did,
Mm.
um, but so they're just trying to set off this bomb, and they suddenly like encounter waves and waves after waves. I said that way too many times. Um, of alien ships like coming and basically trying to kamikaze attack the black hole bomb, um, and the entirety of the human fleet is just trying to stop them, and it's a very uh, it's weird how they portrayed it. It's like a minute and a half of like sketched pictures, you know, showing like alien ships, lasers going everywhere, and it's all in black and white, so it's on sketch paper and stuff like that. Um, and at the end, it shows like a very small remainder of the human fleet, like the main battleship and a few other ships. I think there's like 2,000 ships left. They said, and the black hole bomb is, it looks mangled beyond repair, but because it's this big ass capsule, like it's still operational. So they get to the end of the countdown, everything like goes as planned. Literally, the captain of the main ship is like, "Hey, it's a miracle that this happened with all the damage it's incurred." Um, but then the black hole bomb reaches only 98% degradation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it doesn't have enough power to, or something like that. It doesn't have enough degradation power to initiate a black hole with Jupiter. Um, so the main emotion behind the scene comes from when Noriko is like, "Hey, Gunbuster has a degradation cell. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna set it off, and that's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna save humanity. I might die." Um, and nobody agrees with her, but she tries to do it anyway. And then Kazumi latches on with her because it's two ships that create Gunbuster basically. And she's like, "Hey, I'm going with you. We'll have twice the degradation power, and we might be able to escape." So they end up plowing into the side of the black hole bomb, descending really really far because it is the size of a planet, and the most in the last part, the most impactful like scene I remember is her ripping off the front of her, um, what is it?
For uniform.
Like her uniform, yeah. The
Yeah.
uniform that we've seen her in through the entire series. She rips off part of it, um, because she's trying to rip off the like in to the inner hull of Gunbuster. So she has to do the action herself. So she rips off a part of her uniform and a part of Gunbuster, pulls out what is basically the heart of the Gunbuster, and grabs it and then shoves it into the like core of the degradation, like cell or whatever, and then it explodes. And they it wasn't super clear to me whether they made it out or not, at first, because they started like moving back from the where it exploded, but it's a good 3-4 minutes of like showing Zheng crying because she might never be able to see her friends again, seeing like the captain like remorsefully looking down like, well, we got to get out of here now, let everybody retreat. And then
everyone retreat warp speed.
And then we see this huge explosion, that emits light, throughout the entire or the system that it's in, and then just, form a black hole. And then we see Gunbuster kind of coming out of it, and then I think the separation between that and the last scene is Kimiko with her daughter, like looking up in the sky, like, oh, I thought I heard Noriko, which is, it's a little weird of a separation point, but it was okay.
No, it's a very anime thing.
Yeah, and then you see 12,000 years later. And you see the remnants of the top half of the Gunbuster. It's been what, like 10 minutes for them, 20 minutes for them.
It's been I want to say it's like, I think it's like it's either a year or something
for them.
Like it's like actually I can look this up right now.
Yeah, because I don't I think they were like, because like they wouldn't survive or something like that, or not. Never mind, my bad. Like, they wouldn't survive if they had to last a year in Gunbuster. Gunbuster doesn't really have the stuff to do that, I don't think. But
I don't see it. I think we just know that it's not the same to them.
Yeah.
We just know that, but it is 1,200 years, and this is the part where this is the scene that makes me cry every single time I watch Gunbuster, because like. We have the song at when Noriko rips off that plate to take out the degeneracy reactor and puts it inside the bomb so it can go off. Noriko yells out like, "I'm sorry, I can't keep my promise." And that's when they have to cut away. There's Zheng who's trying to go with them, and they're like, "Zheng, you're like, your machine buster can't handle the pressure. A Gunbuster can." She's like, "But if you go, I'm not going to see you." And they're like, "No, Zheng, like, we'll see you again." And Zheng leaves because when she leaves, and she's crying because she knows that she'll never see them again. She'll never be with her friends ever again.
Because
time, which is the time dilation.
Yeah,
and that's gut wrenching. But then like you get back and everyone's like, Kazumi and Noriko are in Gunbuster. They're like, "I wonder if Earth is even there. Like, did we do it? Were we successful?"
And it's a very like solemn scene because all we see is like Earth like blacked out. We don't see any lights.
Black and white.
We only see a part of it because another part of it's like drenched in shadow. So that's kind of where I thought like the Earth was destroyed or something like that. And we don't see any people, we don't see any lights or anything like that, and they just kind of drift slowly towards it. And then, do you want to like give the final hurrah scene?
Oh yeah,
it's so good. I think you could articulate it better.
I think like when Zheng leaves the pressure of Jupiter, and she's like, "When you come back, I'm gonna throw you a party, and we're all gonna welcome you back." And so they're floating in space. It's been 1,200 years. Like, there's no way Zheng can fulfill that promise.
Yeah.
But as they come back, like this is when light comes back in the show. Like, well, not this exact moment, but like there's lights set up all across the world. And in katakana, it says "Welcome back," but the K is backwards because it's been 1,200 years. This Japanese is no longer like the language,
Yeah.
but it shows that like Zhang kept her promise. Zhang made it so that when they returned, even 1,200 years later, Earth would welcome them back. That these people are still there, and 1,200 years later, people still knew and remembered who they were and what they did for them, for their existence, for such a long time. And so like, yeah, Noriko and Kazumi will never see the people they loved, their family or their friends or anything, but there is this whole world who's welcomed them back. So they get the escape hatches and color returns to the episode, and they float back as blue and red orbs back into space. And that's how it ends. Like, it ends with this beautiful moment of like humanity and hope and peace. This like feeling that like these girls sacrificed so much throughout the whole series, so much of their lives, and they get welcomed back as champions, as heroes. And it's like, even just saying it, like I'm getting a little teary-eyed. It's so beautiful, and it's something that I feel this is the reason why people love Gunbuster. Like, people watch the ending to Gunbuster, they see the part where Naruto rips off the heart, they see the punch, they see the black and white, they see all this melodramatic emotion, and it pays off when they have the welcome back. Like, even the booklet that the DVD box case comes with, the booklet is welcome back. It has welcome back on the front.
That's kind of cool. I like that.
With the backwards K. And like, I remember like I remember opening up this box set, pulling out the booklet, and I saw that, and I teared up immediately. I was like, holy crap, they did this. Like, and it's one of those things, like, I can explain it 1,000 ways with as much eloquence as I can, but like, you have to watch it. You have to sit through those 6 episodes. You have to get to that moment to understand how extraordinarily powerful it is that these 2 young girls are celebrated in this way.
Yeah.
Like, it's so wonderful, and it's something that I think can't be done in any other format, in any other medium, and like, you just can't. And that's why I think Gunbuster is so amazing. Like, even now, like 30 years later, there are no characters like Noriko and Kazumi. 30 years later, like, Noriko and Kazumi are still they feel fresh, because characters don't exist, and if they do exist, they're dudes.
Yeah.
Like, they're men. Hot-blooded mecha pilot, that's a dude. You don't see Noriko.
Oh, give me 1 second. My headphones cut out again. I hate them. I'm gonna get new headphones before we do another episode. I'm not gonna lie. Talk.
We're all good?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's disappointing that anime 30 years later isn't doing the same things that Gunbuster did. And really, all Gunbuster did was just put their love and devotion into this 66 episodes. They just kind of did whatever they want. They took risks. They poured their interest and their love into it, and you can really feel that, especially in the beginning. They have the welcome back, like, that just, it spells out the whole thing. Like, if you work really hard, if you put your guts, if you put everything into the thing you love, for the sake of the thing, for the sake of love, and for the sake of others, and for yourself, if you do it for that alone and not for recognition, people will see it and they will celebrate you. And that's every single time I watch Gunbuster, I get that feeling that, like, if you're gonna do something, throw everything into it, because the people will notice and people will remember it, and that's what matters. It's not about like being the best or being amazing or whatever. It's about putting it all out there.
Yeah.
And like this was Hideaki Anno's directorial debut. This was the first thing he ever made.
Mm.
Like the first thing he ever directed. Like a couple years later, he made Ava, which put Gainax back on the map. Like this helped put Gainax on the map, and then they released Ava. Like, what kind of studio just has this talent? They're like, okay, we did Gunbuster. I guess we should do something else, and they released Ava.
It's when your studio changes the zeitgeist of what anime is seen as twice, like that's when you know you're doing something right.
Yeah, like Gunbuster was a celebration of anime up to that point. Like, if you watch Gunbuster, you are watching anime for the last 20 years. From the last 20 years before that,
Yeah.
like that was everything anime was. And then they released Ava, and like Ava helped change the game for anime. Like Ava, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, Yu Yu Hakusho, like they changed anime. Like you can read 1,000 papers on anime, and they'll always bring up Ava.
Yeah.
But like you can't have Ava without Gunbuster. Like it's like full stop. Like if you love anime, you watch Gunbuster. Like you don't watch Gunbuster to get into anime or to understand anime. You watch Gunbuster because anime has been a thing that you love, and you just watch it, and everything you love about anime is in Gunbuster.
Yeah. I as someone who is relatively new to anime, I mean I guess not really. I used to watch like, I don't know, Black Butler when I was 13 or something like that. But as someone who has very recently got into good anime, I should say, um, it's it was very weird to watch this, um, but not in like a bad way, not in a bad way at all. It was very weird to experience all these tropes and all these cliches that I've seen for years and years in other really like mainstream anime, and then see them portrayed, 10 years before that, or like 15 years before that, this was a very good anime, in my opinion. It set a precedent, um, for Gundams at the time. It set a precedent for Gundams, and it shaped the foundation of what modern anime would, become.
Yeah.
So this is probably one of my new favorite shows.
Mm.
I mean, it's so short, it's so easily digestible. You don't have to like binge watch 200 episodes of One Piece or something like that. But it's very easy to consume.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
you could totally do Gunbuster as a night with friends. Like,
oh yeah,
try to find a good rip of it. Try to find it. Just watch it with buddies. Get some like snacks.
mm-hmm.
Um, and like just kind of kick back and enjoy it. And like, there's extra content too with Gunbuster, which I don't think you got to watch. Like,
No,
2 years after, like a couple years after Gunbuster was released on VHS, they released it on Laserdisc. And the Laserdisc version has extras. They have little shorts that explain all the science in Gunbuster,
ooh,
and they're really really cute. They're really cool. I watched it with my friends. I think we skipped the last one because we were all exhausted by that time.
oh, I think I saw.
Uh,
I think the first
mhm.
episode might have had that. It was like two. It was like 2 or 3 extra minutes,
Yeah.
uh, like at the end of the anime, and it just talked about like the warp science and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't watch
And
it, sadly. I should have, but
it's really cool. A lot of it is nonsense. Like, it's not
yeah,
actually science, but like it's cool that they put that effort. And it also shows that, like, you know, Gainax was at the time was a company that really liked anime, because like there's one of the shorts, they go over the planets, and Coach, or is it Coach or is it Kazumi? I want to say it's Kazumi. Kazumi transforms into every single scout from Sailor Moon. Um, and she goes through all of them up to Jupiter. Uranus and Saturn and Neptune weren't. released yet in the anime and manga form.
Yeah,
Show how old Gunbuster is.
very old.
But like it's Gunbuster is so incredible. Yeah, like I said it earlier, like its design, like the uniforms for the girls are so iconic. Like even if you've never heard of Gunbuster, like you've seen these uniforms in some way. Like even just dipping into anime, you've seen the headband and the style of Gunbuster. Um, the Gunbuster pose where the crossed arms, that is super anime. The calling out of the attacks, the way electricity even looks, um, the way they scream inside their mechs, um, even like the kind of gay coding of the two main characters. It's all very anime. It's all Gunbuster.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's kind of magical,
I
even with all the kind of parts of with all the great stuff of anime in Gunbuster. It's also unfortunately has a lot of like the really kind of icky parts of anime.
yeah. I mean, it's a product of its time.
It's such an 80s. It's
Yeah,
so 80s. It's so early 90s.
you can tell like how it's and I guess we should talk about that a little bit because that's kind of
Yeah.
something we needed to talk about. There were some, iffy parts to this anime.
Definitely.
Not necessarily like anything criminal or like something that'll get it like completely off your watch list or something like that. But
Yeah.
there are some stuff that would have been more appropriate for the time, and is definitely not appropriate now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
Gunbusters, like Gunbuster to be released today would need to change a lot.
oh yeah, 100%.
Um like what like Zheng is introduced into like the next scene she's in, she's just straight up naked.
Yeah, in the
And
bath scene.
she's like I don't know, is she 17 at the time when she's naked?
I don't. They're all high schoolers, man.
Yeah, like
So
yeah, like
yeah,
Zheng is just topless, and like this show is also the origin of like the famous Gynax bounce.
yeah.
Like
The
the girls are very bouncy. Uh so like and that's Gynax, that's a very Gynax thing. Um Coach straight up just backhands Kazumi and they get married later.
yeah that
Like
that
that ooh, like I watched that like I like Coach, but when Coach does that I'm like, dude, come on.
it was
Oh, it's
very,
so bad.
yeah. So there, so for all its, you know, great the great aspects of it, there are some flaws. How how the women are treated a little bit. They're treated more sexually. Throughout the entire thing. I think it's in episode 3, or it might be episode 2. At the end, Kazumi and Noriko are in like a bathhouse, on the ship. So like, I don't feel like that makes sense very much. It's probably just to, you know pander a little bit. And they just had this big fight with Jean, and she comes in. She's all friendly with them now. She's completely naked. You see her torso, her top. You see her boobs. They bounce. Um,
Yeah, there's hella bounce in this
there is
series.
very much, yeah. Um, it's there are some iffy things about this anime, but that is something that you have to take with a grain of salt, because again, it was made in '89. It wasn't necessarily. It didn't have any. It doesn't have the same standards as we had today for that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So,
And to go back on the whole like pandering thing, like if I wrote this in my notes for myself, like nowadays, like we know anime companies and anime studios like pander to anime fans,
yeah,
and there's all this like is anime has almost become kind of homogenized in a way, and I'll talk about that at the end, my thoughts on that and why I love Gunbuster. But Gunbuster in a lot of ways is pandering to people who love anime at the time.
mm-hmm.
So like the whole, and I hate saying this, like I hate saying this, that like the the image of the anime fan is like this dude, this kid, this guy, this male, especially at the time, probably like a 18 to 35-year-old male, and they want to see boobies, they want to see the anime titty, and guy next delivered in Gunbuster, and I hate that like whenever I have to recommend if I recommend Gunbuster to people, first I have to see like, how much do they love anime? One, two, are they going to be okay with the nudity? There's quite a bit of nudity in Gunbuster. Like
Yeah.
even like when Noriko rips off the top half of her
which
uniform,
I thought was way more tasteful than like episode 2.
Oh, that is maybe the most tasteful booby
Yeah.
in the whole series.
That is the most tasteful booby.
Yeah. That's definitely more tasteful. Like that, like it makes sense that like for Noriko to go through with what she did, like she had to feel it in herself as she was ripping off a whole, like she ripped off the chest part of Gunbuster to get to the heart, and for her to do that, she had to do it to herself.
Yeah. The emotion involved made it way more, way better, way more tasteful.
It's way better than just Zhang being hanging out in
naked,
like a deep V-neck swimsuit. Yeah, and like Zhang itself, like herself, like she's definitely just a source of like fetishy fan service where she's just supposed to be super sexy in contrast to Noriko, and especially in contrast to Kazumi, which I think is a shame because I really like Jung. I think Jung is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Going back to the whole, there aren't characters like Kazumi and Noriko. Jung is also a character that isn't really the type of character that isn't really explored in anime.
Yeah.
Like the hot-headed ace who's also kind of cool. Like I'm sure someone would be like, "Oh, so and so exists." Blah 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 exists like that. Satsuki from Kill la Kill, she's like that. I'm like, it's not the same.
No.
Like Satsuki is nowhere near the way Zhang was, and we just don't get characters like her. Like Zhang is not an archetype you see, which is a shame.
Yeah.
And I say that even with like the sexiness that is around Zhang and how kind of uncomfortable it is because she's a teenage girl.
Yeah.
Like yeah, Coach, like as much as this is a series that's focused on girls and there's kind of girl power in it, and there's it passes the Bechdel test and it has all this stuff, it's still very much made by dudes for dudes, and like you definitely have to watch it with knowing that like it's the same way as if you read a book from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a classic. You have to read it knowing that like if there's a girl character, the girl character was made from the point of view of a dude.
Yeah. Or in like other classic literature, Huck Finn, that was made in early slavery-ridden U.S. How they portrayed black people in that is not great, not good at all, but something we have to take as a product of its time.
Yeah, you have to understand that, and like it doesn't excuse it. You just have to understand it.
Yeah.
And like if you can't separate that, maybe Gunbuster is not for you. But I also think that if you're willing to take it and understand it, Gunbuster is maybe one of the best shows you can watch.
Oh yeah.
Like just all the way through, and yeah, you're gonna have to deal with Zhang being sexy and nude and the bouncing and like how some characters can be tertiary to Noriko and Kazumi, but it's such a good ride. And even with all the icky parts, especially the part of Coach hitting Kazumi, like that to me is the part that gets me the most riled up.
Yeah,
because Coach is supposed to be this really sympathetic character, and he just like backhands her.
I didn't look at it in that context, but looking back at it, there was no reason for him to do that. Up until now, it was portrayed that he wouldn't do that. Kazumi has, confronted him about Noriko's behavior multiple times,
Mhm.
and this is unlike his character really.
Yeah,
But then he just slaps her, and
yeah,
it's very, you know,
yeah.
not
It's that is
not a great look for him.
yeah. And that is such a thing that is one very reminiscent of giant robot anime of that era and before. Like Gundam was a series famous for its slaps. Everyone got slapped in Gundam.
Yeah.
Um, I think one of the famous Gundam lines is "Not even my own father slapped me." Um, famous line. Um, yeah, like the whole slapping thing is so of its time. In the same way, like I think the best way to think of it is like James Bond slapped a woman.
Yeah.
That's the era of Gunbuster. Like James Bond just straight up backhand somebody.
And again, this doesn't excuse it. This doesn't
It doesn't.
excuse the
Yeah,
nudity. This doesn't excuse the violence, the blatant kind of
yeah,
misogynistic violence. Um,
yeah. It's this is not us being like it's okay
yeah,
because it
no,
was of the time. We just like it's because Gunbuster was of its time.
mm,
This is why it's there, and I don't like it. I definitely don't like it. I love Gunbuster, but like you get if you're gonna go to me and say like Gunbuster has this scene and be like yeah it does and I hate it. I don't like it. Um, and if you don't want that, that's fine.
yeah,
If you don't want to watch Gunbuster because of that,
you're
I understand.
yeah, you're justified in
It's
that.
one scene, like that's like the only scene that has that. Thank goodness.
Mhm.
Um, and I definitely think you can watch Gunbuster without those scenes. If you watch the movie version, it has no nudity at all. Um, which also means that Jung only appears for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is one of the things that kind of upset me when I watched when I look back on the movie. Like Jung is on the cover of the movie. I'm like, who's Jung? Who's this person? Why should I care about this character? And then I watched the series and I was like, oh, this is her. She's really cool. Why wasn't she in the movie? And I was like, oh, I guess she
Oh,
was just kind of naked
yeah,
half the time she was here.
yeah. Um,
Mm.
and another one thing I guess I do want to kind of say about Jung and the nudity that is portrayed is that it doesn't necessarily, like, of course it's fan service, yeah, of
Oh, it's
course,
definitely fan service. Yeah.
100%. But looking into the context of the anime, it doesn't necessarily seem out of character.
Oh, Jung very
Yeah.
much like is very proud of herself, and she's like, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I got. What are you gonna do about it? And it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm a walk in here naked. I don't care what you guys think.
Yeah,
It's fan
and it
servicey, but it is in character, and it is
yeah
something I would think that she would do.
yeah.
You know?
And I would definitely say, like, in my defense of Jung nudity, which is not a thing I'm going to do lightly. Uh, One, it's not often. It's not that often. It just so happens that like quite a few scenes of Jung are sexy. It just so happens to be that. But those are the scenes that are the coolest scenes with Jung are not when she's sexy. It's when she's piloting, and she gets to be cool, and the scene where she cries at the end
Yeah.
for her friends. But also like so much of anime fan service now is like we're gonna blatantly put this girl in a sexy situation and her boobs are gonna be everywhere and it's just let's just be very predatory about like the way we show this girl,
Yeah.
this teenage girl.
This high school student's gonna trip on the stairs and grab this other girl's boobs, and then when she doesn't like that, she screams and knocks him up, and then they fall, and then he lands right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
And you're like,
it's
oh,
disgusting.
like ha ha ha. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that. It's not that at all. Like
It's fan service in a really really bad and kind of like rapey kind of sexual assaulty way. It's really bad how they do that.
yeah.
I really
Yeah,
dislike that.
yeah. Like that's what like I'll be the first one to be like, if a series has like a little too much anime titty, I'm like, okay. Like I watched a lot of really trashy shows. Like I'm just gonna put it out there. I watch a lot of trash, and as much trash as I watch, I rarely watch a show that's like, this is anime titty the show.
Yeah.
Like there was that show like What the Hell Are You Doing Here, Teacher, and that show sucks. And it's a trashy show that has just it's bad.
Uh,
And Gunbuster is definitely not that.
yeah,
It's
I think
so not that.
I think there's good ways and bad ways to portray nudity. I really dislike, like, even though I kind of defended Jung, her character like archetype and what I think she would have done anyway.
Mm,
I really dislike how it's high school students. I'm pretty sure they're all underaged,
mm,
except for maybe Kazumi. That really kind of creeped me out. I very much disliked that.
mm,
But I'm not gonna say it was tasteless.
yeah.
There's a good way to portray nudity, and I feel like other than the fact that they were underage, this was okay for the most part. Again, I'm not like justifying it, and
We're not
yeah,
justifying it. Yeah.
if this does not appeal to you, if you do not like this, you don't have to watch it or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, but but I kind of, when I think of like what's it, like tasteful nudity or like tasteful sexualization, I think a lot of parts of Kill La Kill are fan servicey, but they're not done in a way to make her what's her name,
Ryuko?
yeah, Ryuko. They don't make her out to be like this sexual idol, like that
Yeah.
that is for people to gawk at. She's supposed
Yeah.
to be powerful, and she's
And
supposed
yeah,
to be
she's
independent.
confident.
And in the same
Yeah.
way, in Devilman Crybaby, there's a lot of nudity there. But
Oh
it's
yeah.
supposed to be portrayed as like realism and realistic, like people are nude sometimes, and you got to expect that.
Yeah.
There are tasteful ways to do nudity. This is semi okay.
Yeah.
Again, don't like how they're underage.
Yeah, that's I think that's the nudity for is definitely more uncomfortable because like
Oh, yeah.
Kazumi, Noriko and Jung are very much young, and it's concerning.
Yeah.
Um, at the very least, by the time Kazumi marries Coach, she's graduated from high school. She's very much over the age of 18, and that's thank goodness. But yeah, like as much as we're like going on about like the nudity of Gunbuster, if you want to compare it to nudity now, it's very tame.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
very whatever.
I
But
think.
if that is something that you don't like, even especially today, like let be aware of that when you enter Gunbuster.
Yeah. And
Um,
it really, so even though we've talked about it for like what 10-20 minutes,
mm,
it's very short scenes that are problematic in pretty not deliberate, in pretty specific ways that you can pick out. You could understand where they come from and the time that it
mm,
was made and stuff like that. And I feel like most of them don't detract from the anime itself.
mm,
And this anime is really really good. So if those kinds of things aren't a deal breaker for you, if you could suspend your reality, suspend, I don't know, if you can take it for what it is, for when it came from, this is probably one of the best animes you'll see, and I recommend it highly to anybody. So
yeah, definitely. If you want to watch an anime from this era of time, Gunbuster, I think, has. If you're gonna recommend someone an anime from this time period of anime, Gunbuster has to be there. Like Gunbuster is easily top three, if not number one. Um, it's incredible. It's gorgeous to this day. Like 30 years later, Gunbuster looks incredible. I would even argue probably looks better than a lot of anime now.
oh yeah, no, I'd
Um,
agree.
it's the art direction is so strong in
How yeah,
Gunbuster.
it's so detailed, especially in its world,
Mm,
how they drew, and how the art builds the world. Um, Again, this is from the '80s, so they didn't have like Apple Watches or like stuff like that, or touchscreens even. It is very H.R. Geigery, and they took that level of descriptiveness. They took the tactile senses that come with that kind of technology, and just made it super sci-fi and futuristic, and it the all of the and it's in space, so it's even like more beautiful. You get to see the stars and you get to see the planets. You get to see, I think in the later episodes, you get to see like what is it? Uh, like where like space dust. What is it called?
I have no
Like
idea.
nebulas. You get to
Yeah.
see
Okay.
nebulas. They're really nicely colored. I, how this anime looks and how it is built is just really it shows the amount of like dedication these artists and these directors had in it. And it is definitely one of the better looking anime I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Um, I've watched
Um.
quite a bit of anime.
Yeah. I've watched anime for years before I saw Gunbuster, and Gunbuster floored me. And I've seen like I'm really into like really experimental, really like aesthetically pleasing looking anime,
Yeah,
and Gunbuster still like it it's a gut punch. Like its design and the colors and everything. And I want to get into this. Like this is I wanted this to be my like my final thoughts on Gunbuster.
mm-hmm.
Like why is Gunbuster so good? Like why should you watch Gunbuster?
Yeah. I'll give you
And
the final thoughts, and then we could probably wrap it up from here.
yeah, so like anime has been around since like the 50s from Astro Boy to now. And as anime has evolved and there's been these eras of anime, um like the fandom around it has evolved, the productions have evolved, and like for me growing up with anime, I've kind of seen how anime in the industry has evolved from the 90s to now. Around the time Gunbuster was released, when like I was a kid, I wasn't even born when Gunbuster was released, but like I was born a couple years after. But I got to see the fallout of Gunbuster, and as I watch anime now, there's so much out there, a lot of crap, a lot of really good stuff too. And I think as anime gets more and more popular around the world, and we get to see its popularity just boom exponentially, we also get to see the homogeneity of anime. Like, there's so much isekai out there. Every protagonist can look the same. Every titty anime girl looks the same. Um, there's so much like there's a lack of heart in a lot of shows, and I'm not really I'm not even relegating this to just anime. Like we feel this way about movies, we feel this way about books, about music, about art in general, and we so rarely get to enjoy something that was made for the sake of just enjoying the medium. Like this, so often a video game, a movie, a song is released for the sake of capitalizing on an idea or a fad. And Gunbuster isn't that. Like Gunbuster, as much as it is a celebration of anime, it's also so uniquely its own thing. In the same way The Simpsons parodied so much but became classic, Gunbuster is that same way. It's an OVA that was released in the late 80s, right before the explosion of Dragon Ball and Eva and Sailor Moon and all the super popular Gundam spin-offs. It's a culmination of the director and his team, their love for sci-fi, their love for anime, their love for drama and war films, and everything identifiable as anime. With the cool key poses, its extreme detail, its exquisite color, the name attack calling. It's so raw and it's exquisite and how beautiful it is and its sincerity and authenticity. Like you watch Gunbuster, you're watching people who love anime. You're watching people who love this medium and love this stuff and decided I want to do it too. And I think you don't really get that much. You don't get to see that as often now. And I think that's why Gunbuster is worth watching just for that. You know, is the plot kind of all over the place? Yeah. Is like are the characters kind of silly and sometimes not as multi-dimensional as I would like them to be? Sure. But also it's a lot of fun and it's so beautiful and it's like there's even 30 years later so much has come out of Gunbuster and people still haven't touched that beautiful raw honesty of people who are just having a good ass time with anime.
Yeah.
um and also like hard work and guts. Like that's the stuff. And it if you can watch Gunbuster and you don't cry at the end when Noriko and Kazumi come back, like I don't know what to tell you. Like maybe you're not maybe you don't have a heart.
Damn. All right, Campbell. Um, so I agree with everything you've said.
Mm-hmm.
And I very highly recommend this anime. I can't say anything that wouldn't be repetitive. Um, but this we've I must reiterate, this is a very easy anime to watch. This is a love letter to all of the genre in and of itself. There's 6 episodes. They're like 25 minutes each, and they're on BitChute, where I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
um,
I've seen some people upload it on YouTube as well, so you can
okay,
find it there.
yeah, but this is the quintessential anime, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. It defined an era. It influenced so many of the tropes and personalities that we've seen today. And it kind of, even in doing that, it was in an entire realm of its own. It had the heart of sci-fi. It had the heart of all these dramas and amazing craftsmanship involved. And I can't recommend this anime enough. I went into it thinking like, oh, I probably won't like this. It's old style. I'm kind of a new anime kind of guy. Um, but I came out of it appreciating the entirety of the genre way more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so this is everywhere. You can get this for free anywhere now. I highly recommend you watch it. And I think that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. People don't watch Gunbuster to like anime. Like you watch Gunbuster because you love it.
yeah, of course. Um, so that being said, I think that's all we have for today.
Okay.
Um, I guess I didn't really talk to you about this beforehand, but do you have any input on what we should watch next time and talk about?
Um, I think watching Ava or Diebuster is a good place to start.
Okay.
Because it's Ano, and I meant to talk about Ano, but I didn't really get into it. And I think if we do Diebuster, we can talk about the influence of Ano. And Diebuster isn't Ano, like
Okay.
it's a different team, different era of anime. Um, it's a whole different discussion too.
Mm.
It being a sequel series. Um, I guess it's up to you. Would you prefer watching Ava or Diebuster? Diebuster is a
Um.
sequel to Gunbuster.
So I am I don't mean to like rag on you. I I would kind of like to switch it up a little bit. Um,
Okay.
but
Ooh.
I could stay in the same vein. So do you mind if I throw out maybe a compromise there?
Ooh, yeah.
Uh,
Let's do it.
I'm thinking we can watch Cowboy Bebop and just talk about it because
Oh yeah.
that is a very influential anime. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of got that old style to it, even though it was made in like the mid '90s.
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
it's kind of has the same sci-fi kind of cowboy
Mm-hmm.
feel, and I think that would be really fun and good to watch and talk about. How do you feel?
Also,
How do you feel about that?
I love Watanabe as a director, so I'm totally down to watch Cowboy Bebop.
Okay. What else you were gonna say? Sorry, my bad.
Oh, I was gonna say like I was trying to think of like other anime. I'm trying. I think if I'm gonna suggest anything later, it'll be like old classic stuff to keep in the old man
Yeah.
thing for me. Um, yeah,
Okay.
and
Um,
of course, like if in the future we have people who listen and watch this, they can send recommendations and we'll watch.
oh yeah, yeah, of course. Um, we should probably come up with a list just so we have like, we could look at it and just pick one and kind of vote on it. Um, but that's for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So tune in next time. I think we're gonna try to be doing this bi-weekly. Is that the case?
I think that's the plan. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna probably be back in 2 weeks to talk about Cowboy Bebop. So tune in for that. If you liked this podcast kind of YouTube thing, please like, subscribe, and expect more content. This has been the Sunday Soup with Cannon and
Campbell.
yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day. Bye.
See you next time.